Imagine a future where Mars isn't just a one-off footprint, but a thriving civilization, one that can survive without resupply from Earth. That's the boldest twist in Elon Musk's latest post. He didn't just say we land on Mars. He said, we secure the future of consciousness. Today, we dig deep into what Musk means by that, whether his estimates, 100,000 people, 1 million tons of cargo, are feasible, what technical and social hurdles lie ahead, and what it would take for real to make a Mars city that can stand alone. If you're curious about space, civilization, and whether Mars might really be humanity's backup plan, you're in the right place. Let's go. First, let me read the post that sparked this discussion. I am confident that Starship will land humans on Mars. That path is clear. But what really matters is securing the future of consciousness, not just getting a small number of people to Mars. That probably requires getting over 100,000 people and 1 M tons of cargo to Mars. The critical threshold to pass is making it such that Mars can grow even if supply ships from Earth stop coming for any reason. That turns a colonization narrative into a survival narrative. It's no longer about planting a flag. It's about creating a backup for life, mind, culture. Something that can endure even if Earth fails. Some key themes to watch for. Future of consciousness. Musk is elevating this to a philosophical, existential argument. Scale and threshold. The numbers matter because they constrain engineering, economics, and time. Self-sustainability. Making Mars not dependent on Earth is the turning point. Musk's vision isn't new. He's long talked about Mars settlement to preserve humanity. What's new is the framing. 100,000 people, 1 million tons, and the idea of crossing a line where Mars grows itself. We'll come back to whether those numbers make sense. But first, what is the state of Starship and our current Mars plans? To understand whether Musk's vision is plausible, we must understand how he expects to get there. The linchpin is Starship, SpaceX's heavy-lift, fully reusable spacecraft plus booster architecture. Some facts and caveats. Starship, coupled with its super-heavy booster, is designed to carry tens to hundreds of tons per launch, to orbit, and eventually to Mars. A key challenge, reusability of the heat shield on the ship, upper stage. Orbital reusability is still a frontier. Musk and SpaceX have proposed that cargo flights to Mars might begin in 2030, with a pricing reference of $100 million per metric ton of surface payload. To build momentum, Musk suggests increasing tonnage per Mars transfer window, every 26 months, exponentially over successive windows. Let me walk you through a rough back-of-envelope. Suppose you want to deliver 1 million tons over, say, 20 windows, 40 years. That's an average of 50,000 tons per window. If one Starship can deliver, say, 100 tons per mission, this is optimistic, but used for illustration, that means 500 missions per window, or 250 launches a year in that window. And that's just to hit the base cargo. You still need crew transport, redundancy, colony infrastructure, etc. So the scale is daunting. But Musk would counter. Economies of scale, reuse, and incremental buildup can reduce costs and increase frequency. That's his bet. But also, historical Mars missions were painfully expensive per kilogram, in the millions of dollars per kilogram. If Musk can push that down by orders of magnitude, the numbers become more tractable. However, there's no guarantee this will line up perfectly. Every component, propellant, manufacturing, integration, reliability, operations, has to scale in unison. Now to the heart. Musk's claim that 100,000 people and 1 million tons of cargo are the thresholds needed to cross into self-growing Mars. Does that make sense? Why 100,000 people? Some social and simulation studies suggest that a community needs a critical mass to maintain diversity, resilience, innovation, division of labor, and redundancy. In an agent-based modeling study, researchers found that even a small initial crew, 22 people, might be a minimum viable group under certain constraints, though that's much less than 100,000. But that's just a start. To build industry, education systems, redundancy in genetics, and cultural depth, you'd likely need orders of magnitude more. Why 1 million tons of cargo? Because a self-sustaining civilization needs everything. From habitats, power plants, mining machinery, life support, food systems, manufacturing plants, electronics, machine tools, spare parts, and more. To bootstrap an industrial base from scratch, you need heavy infrastructure. You can't carry thousands of years of spare parts. You have to build them on site. Some technical studies, e.g. hydrogen production, mining, suggest that once a colony can produce fuel and basic raw materials, it could then bootstrap outward. For example, a paper estimated the energy cost of producing hydrogen on Mars and sending it to low Earth orbit as part of a larger interplanetary logistics network. The 100,000 1 million number is not a magic formula. It's a rough order of magnitude meant to communicate scale and threshold. If you undershoot by, say, 50,000 people and 500,000 tons, you risk being permanently dependent on Earth or failing due to lack of redundancy. Overshooting has diminishing returns. More people cost more food, more life support, more complexity. The delivery bottleneck is tough. Some analysts argue that achieving any self-sustainability is nearly impossible given resource constraints, energy budgets, and the hostile environment. So the 100,000 benchmark is overly optimistic. There's also the export economics problem. Mars needs economy, trade, revenue. If Mars can't export anything valuable to Earth, it becomes a pure cost center. In short, Musk's numbers are an aggressive aspiration, not guaranteed design targets, but they serve as a useful target for thinking about scale. Musk's wording is powerful. The goal is to reach a point where Mars can grow even if supply ships from Earth stop coming for any reason. That is the threshold of self-propagation. What does that truly entail, technically, socially, and philosophically? Here's what growth without Earth implies. Resource independence. Mining local materials, metals, silicates, water ice. Producing fuels, methane, hydrogen, oxygen, via in-situ resource utilization, ISRU. Producing building materials, cement, ceramics, plastics. Generating energy, solar, nuclear, perhaps fusion in the far future. Manufacturing and repair infrastructure. Factories for mechanical parts, electronics, computer chips, machine shops, 3D printing, advanced robotics. Redundancy, spares, recycling loops, closed-loop life support, air, water, food recycling. Agriculture, hydroponics, vertical farms, soil creation. Waste recycling, compost, chemical recovery. Population resilience and culture. Enough people to handle disasters, generational turnover, social dynamics. Education, governance, medicine, social cohesion. Economic viability, trade, internal markets, perhaps trade with Earth or other bodies. Incentives to innovate and expand. Crossing the threshold means that any failure of supply lines from Earth doesn't doom the colony. The system has enough internal momentum, redundancy, and flexibility to adapt. If that threshold is crossed, the colony becomes less a colony and more an independent civilization. Of course, we can question exactly where the breakpoint lies. Is it 50% reliance? 10%? Or zero reliance? Musk frames it as zero reliance. That's the bold vision. What if Earth's supply is lost early? A misstep in timing could doom the effort. You need spare capacity, buffer stocks, and margins. Social fragility, a catastrophic event, plague, radiation burst, internal conflict, could cripple a colony before it becomes robust. Planetary protection and ethics. As we develop Mars, should we worry about contaminating native life, if any? In short, Musk is not just talking rockets, he's talking origin stories for a new humanity. A bold vision doesn't come without massive challenges. Let's run through some of the biggest obstacles, uncertainties, and potential wildcards, plus what recent research is trying to solve. Technical, engineering challenges. Heat shield and reusability. As noted, no orbital spacecraft has yet achieved rapid full reuse of the heat shield. The shuttle required months of refurbishment between flights. Radiation and cosmic rays. Mars has a thin atmosphere and weak magnetic field. Long-term exposure is a major health risk. Regolith toxicity and dust. Martian soil is full of perchlorates and fine dust that's abrasive and chemically reactive. Power systems. Solar efficiency is lower due to distance. Dust storms can block sunlight. Nuclear options have political, technical, and safety trade-offs. Agriculture and biology. Closed-loop systems degrade over time. Microbial balance, nutrient recycling, contamination control are open research areas. Engineering scale. Scaling up factories in a harsh environment is harder than incremental prototypes. Social human factors. Mental health, cohesion, conflict. Small societies in isolation under stress may fracture. Governance and law. How do you structure rule of law, civil rights, resource allocation, justice on a new planet? Inequality in class. Who gets to go? Who owns land or resources? Will Martian cities replicate Earth's social issues? Cultural identity and memory. Over time, Martian identity may diverge from Earth's. What does religion, art, heritage look like? Scientific and biosystems wildcards. Engineered microbial ecosystems. Cutting-edge research is exploring engineered microbes that can help with soil formation, nutrient cycles, bioremediation under Martian conditions. Unknown life or contamination. If Mars has indigenous life, terraforming or microbial introduction raises ethical and biological risk. Planetary climate engineering. Could humans warm Mars, with its thin atmosphere and greenhouse gases, to make it more habitable over centuries? That's speculative and risky. These challenges don't necessarily make Musk's vision impossible, but they invert the default assumption. Instead of, will we get there? The question becomes, will we survive after we're there? Let's look at timelines, Musk's own projections, and what critics are saying. Musk has claimed that a self-sustaining Mars city could be established within about 30 years, implying sometime around 2055. Some reports suggest he thinks it's plausible in 25 to 30 years, with exponential tonnage growth through each Mars window. SpaceX itself refers to a future where the Mars city could eventually host upwards of 1 million people and millions of tons of cargo. However, many scientists and engineers believe these timeframes are overly optimistic, given limits in manufacturing, energy, radiation shielding, and life support. Some critics argue that ecological and energy constraints make full closure, no Earth inputs, probably impossible, at least in the foreseeable future. Others point out that Earth already struggles with closed life systems, like biosphere experiments. Scaling that to thousands of people is orders harder. The cost and time to deliver 1 million tons might be so high that Earth's economy can't sustain it. A critique often raised, a Mars colony may always depend on Earth for certain advanced tech or exotic inputs, making full independence rhetorical rather than literal. I believe that humanity can build a vibrant, semi-autonomous Mars settlement within decades. But full zero-import sustainability is likely centuries away, not decades. The threshold that Musk points to is aspirational, a guiding star rather than a guaranteed milestone. That said, aiming high may be the only way progress happens. If we only aimed for small, incremental missions, we'd never push through the necessary leaps in engineering, energy, and biology. Ultimately, Musk is casting a vision, not a guarantee. The real test will be in the next few Mars windows. How quickly we scale, how many failures are tolerated, and whether we can bootstrap critical infrastructure before dependency kills momentum. Let's step back. Why does Musk talk about consciousness rather than just colonization or exploration? Why is forging a self-sustaining civilization on Mars a philosophical as well as an engineering goal? Here are some deeper reasons. Existential risk. Earth faces many threats: climate collapse, pandemics, nuclear war, asteroid impact, runaway AI, ecological collapse. A multiplanetary species is less vulnerable to a single-point failure. Redundancy of life and mind. In effect, Mars becomes a backup drive for the software of humanity: culture, science, art, consciousness itself. Inspirational and aspirational value. Big visions motivate investment, attract talent, and shift what's possible. Technological spin-offs. Many technologies developed for Mars, life support, energy systems, closed-loop ecology, robotics, could benefit Earth. Psychological horizon expansion. A civilization that reaches beyond Earth may reframe how we see ourselves, our place in the cosmos, and our responsibilities. Musk's phrasing attempts to recast colonization not as escapism, but as stewardship, preserving life and thought beyond Earth's fragility. But that also raises moral questions. Should we prioritize Earth's healing before venturing outward? Who gets to go? Who stays? Who funds it? If Earth becomes neglected while we look outward, did we fail at our home first? These tensions make the Mars vision not just technically audacious, but morally complicated. If you're tracking whether Musk's vision is becoming reality, here are key near-term milestones to watch. Uncrewed Starship landings on Mars. Musk has projected that the first uncrewed starships will launch in about 2 years, around 2026, to test landings. Success in landing heavy cargo intact is crucial before crewed missions begin. crewed Mars flights. If uncrewed missions succeed, Musk expects human missions to follow about 4 years later. But this is extremely aggressive and dependent on flawless prior steps. Scaling launch cadence. How many starships per year to Mars? Is reuse effective enough? Are manufacturing, propellant production, and logistics scaling accordingly? On Mars infrastructure and ISRU demonstration, can we produce propellant, methane, and oxygen on Mars at scale? Can we build habitats, test life support, agriculture, and energy systems in situ? Cargo volume per window. Does the delivered cargo increase exponentially as projected? Are costs per ton trending downward? Colony resilience tests, simulated supply cutoffs, system failures, redundancy tests, autonomous repair, and social experiments in Mars analog habitats, like Antarctic stations or underground biospheres. If within the next 2 or 3 windows we see exponential cargo growth, repeated successful landings, and beginnings of ISRU, then Musk's vision begins to move from wishful to corner of plausible. We're standing at a hinge point. Either humanity doubles down on Earth's survival, or we begin building a backup civilization beyond it. Musk's post is less about Mars than about life's continuity. Let me leave you with a few questions. If Mars becomes real, what kind of civilization should it be? Utopian? Experimental? Mirror Earth's flaws? Or try something new? Should we delay Mars so long as Earth is still salvageable? Or hedge while we heal? What responsibilities do Earthlings have to Mars colonists? Moral, financial, legal? And ultimately, is the 100,000 or 1 million mark an achievable threshold or a poetic marker? We build a seed. For it to sprout, it needs water, soil, light, and space. Musk is asking us to imagine a seed that can eventually sprout without watering. That is the ambition of a self-sustaining Mars. But to even germinate, we need to plant, protect, and nurture it for decades. We may not reach zero dependence fully in our lifetimes, but the attempt, the leap, may transform our understanding of life, civilization, and our place in the universe. If you enjoyed this deep dive, hit like, comment your thoughts, 100,000 people to Mars, wild or wise, and subscribe if you want more space and future content. I'll see you in the next video, and I'd love to read your visions for Mars below.